So let's tackle a huge question today. Is our economic system rigged? I mean, is it fundamentally designed to funnel wealth to the top while leaving pretty much everyone else behind? Let's get into it.
I want to start with just one single number, 75%. Now, on its own, it's just a number, right? But it is at the absolute heart of the global inequality puzzle. According to the World Inequality Report, that number, 75%, is the share of all global wealth owned by the richest 10% of people. Now, look at the other side of this chart. The entire bottom half of humanity, that's almost 4 billion people, are left with a tiny 2% slice. That's not a gap, that's a chasm. So how on earth did we get here?
Well, to understand this, we really need to look at a groundbreaking theory that offers up a kind of formula for inequality itself.
Back in 2013, a book called Capital in the 21st Century just landed like a bombshell. In it, this French economist, Thomas Piketty, laid out a really simple but powerful argument that would completely reframe how we talk about wealth and inequality. Piketty's whole argument really boils down to this simple formula. R is greater than G. All it means is that when the rate of return you get on capital is consistently higher than the rate of overall economic growth, wealth will just inevitably concentrate at the very, very top.
Let's break that down a bit more. R is the money your money makes, through stuff like investments, stock dividends, and real estate. G is the growth of the overall economy, which for most people shows up as wages from their jobs. Piketty's point is that over the long run, wealth from R just grows a heck of a lot faster than income from G.
And the result of this? Piketty calls it patrimonial capitalism. It's a society where it becomes more lucrative to inherit wealth than to actually work for a living. A world where the power of existing money overshadows the power of human labor. And here's the thing. Piketty's data shows this isn't some new problem. In fact, for centuries, high inequality was basically the norm. That period in the mid-20th century with lower inequality, that was the historical exception, an anomaly that only happened because 2 world wars and the Great Depression literally wiped out massive amounts of inherited wealth. But since around 1980, we've been on what he calls a great U-turn, heading right back to those pre-war levels of inequality. I mean, the book's impact was immense. You had Nobel laureates like Paul Krugman calling it maybe the most important economics book of the decade. It totally transformed the conversation. But not everyone was convinced.
And that brings us to the counter-argument. Because almost as soon as Piketty's theory took off, it came under some pretty serious fire.
Yeah, critics from all across the spectrum started poking holes in his argument. They questioned his very definition of capital, they questioned his data and his core conclusion, arguing he was overlooking some really crucial factors. For instance, you have the Marxist scholar David Harvey, who argued that Piketty's idea of capital was just too simple. Harvey said capital isn't some big pile of assets, like a treasure chest. It's a dynamic process. It's money that's in constant motion, always being used to make more money. Then another really influential critique came from economist Matthew Rockley. He argued that the trend Piketty identified wasn't really about capital in general, but was almost entirely being driven by one single thing: the surging value of housing. And that's a huge deal, because that one detail kind of changes the entire story. So this leads us to a really fundamental question. Is this rising inequality just some inescapable law of capitalism, like Piketty's R greater than G suggests? Or is it actually about the rules that we've all created? To explore that, let's try and reframe the debate using the idea of an economic pie. First, we've got to understand this concept, a zero-sum game. It's really simple. It's any situation where, for one person to win, another person has to lose. The size of the pie is fixed, and the whole game is just the fight over who gets the biggest slice. Now, here's a fascinating distinction made by Professor Sam Vaknin that really helps connect all these ideas. He argues that we have to separate the concept of the economy from the concept of capitalism. See, the economy itself, he says, is not a zero-sum game. Through technology and innovation, we can grow the total pie of goods and services, creating more for everyone. In theory, it's a positive-sum system where we all can benefit. But capitalism, in this view, is different. It's not the pie itself, it's the set of rules for how we divide that pie. It's the operating system that decides who gets what share of all that economic growth. And this is the crucial point.
This framework suggests that even if the overall economic pie is getting bigger, the rules of capitalism can be written to channel those gains almost exclusively to the top. This creates a zero-sum, win-lose dynamic for most people, even inside a growing positive-sum economy.
So, when you put all of this together, it leads to a pretty profound conclusion. Maybe the most important economic question of our time isn't just about growth. It isn't about how big we can make the pie. But rather, it's a much more political one. Who gets to write the rules? Who gets to decide how that pie is sliced? And that is the fundamental question this entire debate really leaves us with.